Hello all my JavaScript friends, and welcome to our next video in the Jigsaw Puzzle tutorial. Now this video is going to cover the source code. In fact, this video is going to be quite lengthy because each video is going to cover different very key and important aspects of it. For instance, one video is going to cover the game object, which is what we're going to cover today. Another one's going to cover the table object. Another one's going to cover the piece object. Another one's going to cover the UI object. Another is going to cover the cuts, and in real great specificity, the jigsaw cut. And finally, a third video would be kind of bringing everything all together. Not a third video. What would it be? Fifth video, sixth video? Doesn't matter. The final video would be bringing everything all together and then possibly future plans. But let's take a look, first of all, at our objects. Now, last time we did cover the test, and here were all our tests. No big deal. But the test, basically, as you can see here, should correspond to our source code. There are classes source code, cuts, database, game pieces, statistics, support table, UI, same thing, cuts, databases, E2E, game pieces, statistics, support table, and UI. So the test we have here did mirror basically exactly the classes that we created. We're not going to worry about images, databases, or CSS. A lot of that has to deal with the UI. We're going to worry about everything here. So each one basically gets its own class. There's the UI classes and supporting information. There's the table class it's supporting. Don't worry about support. There's the statistics class, and again, that's a very minor class which keeps count of that move and that statistics at the top. Here's the piece class, the game class, the database classes, which that's immaterial for this particular one, and then the cuts class, which is very material for another video all by itself. Oh, that jigsaw one, I swear it took me about a whole month to try to figure that sucker out. Anyway, let's get to the game object. Very, very simple game object. Now, the idea here again is that what we want to do with the game object is that we want to be able to use it as the interface between the UI and the table. So it's going to be communicating with the UI and the table itself. So when we construct it, we're going to basically get ourselves a table, or we're going to create ourselves a whole new UI. We're going to go null for table because we're going to create the table later on. Then we're going to set up the databases. Now, the databases themselves, these are singleton databases that I've created. And this is the image database contains all of the information. In fact, let me just show it to you here real quick. The image database, where is it? There it is. Sorry, I couldn't find it. The image database basically contains all the information there is about the different images, the categories, IDs, names, URLs, things like that. The cuts database shows you all the different cuts that I am supporting, in this case a square and a jigsaw. And then finally, num pieces does the same thing. This is the different number of pieces that we are going to be able to support with the game itself. A lot of that, in fact, all of that is going to be used basically in conjunction with the UI, that once the UI has selected the image, the cut, and the pieces, we then go and pass that over to the table and figure out what we need to do. But the idea here basically is that I've got a lot of getter information here. No setters, notice that. Everything here is basically as read-only as possible. I don't want outside programs interfering with the game as much as humanly possible. We're going to initialize the UI, and then we're going to we're going to dispatch an event saying event begin. And that dispatch event basically says, hey, we can now begin the game. This is that status that allows me to be able to keep tabs on where I am within the game. And all that is defined within the game status. Here it is, the event begin, event exit, event new. These are basically either where the game is in relationship to everything else, where it's at begin, or whether something has exited, new, ready, or something like that. I have to admit, I've not really done it as well as I would like to have, but that's the way it goes. So when we dispatch an event, there it is. This event handler it does whatever it needs to do. The table object and the UI object are also going to be able to use a dispatch event to be able to tell the game, hey, something has occurred. This is what's occurred. You figure out what to deal with it. So, for example, when we do a begin, we run event begin, and this is just basically a simple little routine within our UI, or I'm sorry, within this code here to set up the beginning event, which is there it is. Set the status, reset the moves, reset the time, and then tell the UI to render the status. And then the UI will basically render and do whatever it needs to get done. Event new basically means this is basically, event new is what's called by the UI. When the UI, you've clicked on the new button and it has clicked on when you click on the new button, it's going to dispatch an event saying, hey, guess what? I've got a event button. What do you want to do with it? Well, we're going to do an event new. Okay, with event new, event new, event new. All right, so, oh boy, yeah, event new, I'm going to be able to, basically, I've got to get the image for this, what image we have selected. I basically got to figure out what cut, the image that we got to get for the cut, and I've got to figure out what images we're going to get for the num pieces. Once I get all of that done, then I've got to do I'm going to send the UI back saying, hey, I need you to do a new game with all the different images, all of the different cuts, and all of the different number of pieces. And so all these promises right here basically allows me to bring in all those different images very nice and very cleanly from the different databases and make sure everything is, okay and nice and pretty for the screen for the UI to be able to take over. And once the UI, that's basically all that really happens at that point. So again, here, the idea is that we're sending messages or we're sending events straight out to either the UI or to the table. That's all we're communicating with here. So what will happen is that once the UI, once the person has clicked on continue, once they've selected an image or a cut and num pieces, we're going to get this status back from the UI. And so we're going to get our image data, our cut data, and num pieces data, which represents what was selected by the user. We're going to create our table. And of course, with the table, we're going to pass in the image, the number of pieces, and the cut. That's extraordinarily important because you can't have a jigsaw puzzle unless you had an image, you have the number of pieces, and you have the cut. Then we're going to set the dimensions of the table. We have hard-coded for 800 by 600. No big deal there. And then we're going to tell the UI, okay, we're ready. The table has done everything it needs to do. We're now basically ready at this particular point in time. What's going to happen is that then the UI is going to sit there and click on the word start, or the start. When we get the start, we're going to reset the statistics. We're going to start the timer, and then we're going to start the game. And eventually things are going to happen like, they're going to click on the word pause. That's what's going to happen. When they click on continue after they do pause, they're going to click on exit. This is what happens. And they're going to click on finished game. This is what happens. So everything here is all dealing with what happens with particular events. Now, there is one special event that we have here called dispatch in-game event. While the game is running, an event's going to occur. And that in-game event, right now, the only one that it is defined is piece moved. And this allows me to be able to tell the table that there has been a piece move and the data contains the piece that is being moved. Then I increment the number of moves, update the pieces remaining, and the status that comes back from table after the piece is moved is going to tell me whether the game is finished or something has basically what's happened. So I just check to make sure the game is finished. And if it's finished, I then do a event finished, which is right here. So it does whatever it needs to do. And so that basically is it. The game is responsible, again, for communicating with the table with everything it needs to know about the jigsaw puzzle. And it's responsible for communicating with the UI to basically say, hey, you need to display this screen. You need to display that screen. You can now go ahead and start the drag drop operations. And that basically is all we have to do with the game. In the next video, we're going to cover the table. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to this channel to view more videos. Click on the like button on this video and visit us at TheVirtuoid.com. Also, support us on Patreon, where you can get access to member-only videos. Links are down below. Again, thank you very much for watching, and keep on coding.